What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in for another video. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. We're still doing 3 videos a week, so we don't want you to miss out on any of those future videos. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure and go back and check out all our other videos. We got lots of great stuff on the channel, and I feel like it's all good bass fishing content to help you guys catch more bass. You know, that's the goal of this channel, is to help you guys catch more bass when you get out on the water. So hopefully you can learn something from this video here today, which we're going to talk about one of everybody's favorite baits. You know, this is one of the most exciting ways to catch a bass, and that'll be with a buzzbait. But if there's one frustration with a buzzbait, it's when a fish blows up on it, you see the big explosion, and you miss them. So I'm going to give you guys a little tip here to kind of help prevent that from happening, you know, and maybe help you guys land more of those fish that actually bite your buzzbait. So we're going to dive in, give you a little hack on that, and kind of explain why that's happening. So if you guys are ready, let's jump in and let's break down the buzzbait. Okay, so I got a couple different buzzbaits here. This one here, this is the MBeckerFishing buzzbait. It's a little bit different than your standard style buzzbait, and we'll kind of dive into what makes it different and why you know, the action is actually different between these two. But if you take your standard style buzzbait right here, this is actually just a Picasso hog snatcher buzzbait. You know, it's one I like to throw a lot. But if you throw this guy out on the water, what ends up happening a lot of times is the torque from this blade spinning on the water. Obviously, you know, the buzzbait blade is what's making the commotion on the water, and that's what you're after. But it actually ends up spinning the bait sideways. So it runs across the water like this. Because of the torque of that blade from churning on the water, it turns the whole frame of this, because there's really not a keel on the bottom of this buzzbait. There's nothing for it to hold it straight swimming in the water. So this ends up turning on its side like this. And you'll see that as your buzzbait, you know, kind of starts running off to the side, not running perfectly straight. And, you know, that kind of leads into missing those fish that blow up on it, because if your hook point is sideways and that fish comes up and hits this bait, he's hitting the back of the hook. He is not hitting the hook point at all. So, you know, you always want to make sure that you have your buzzbait running vertical, I guess you would call that, rather than horizontal. You want him running vertical with that hook point up. So if a fish comes up and bites on that hook point is facing up, and he is going to get hooked. So, you know, the difference between these two, before we dive into what you can do to help prevent that from happening, you can see this MBeckerFishing buzzbait actually has a little bit of a bend right there. And the head design is slightly different, but this bend right here is what's really important, because this allows this blade to hit on the surface, but this jig part, if you will, of the buzzbait where the hook is, that's actually swimming below the water. So this blade will be tickling the surface of the water right here, and this bait is actually below the surface of the water. So there is a lot of resistance on that bait from turning sideways, because that bend of the frame allows that bait to ride a little bit further down in the water. This one does not like to turn on its side as much. So you're going to notice a couple things with a buzzbait of this style. First up, it's not going to make quite as much commotion. You know, obviously it's got a smaller blade on it, so it's just kind of tickling the surface. But this big bulk of the, you know, the jig, the skirt, the head, all of that, it's actually running under the surface. So really the only commotion you have is just that blade just tickling the surface as he goes along. So it's going to be almost a little more finesse style buzzbait. You know, this is just kind of just tickling along the surface rather than making a big loud commotion of a big profile bait that's buzzing across the surface. Now, the other thing with these is you don't get quite the aggressive explosion that you see on a lot of buzzbaits. You know, a lot of times the bites on this style bait is that blade is what's attracting them, but they come up and just kind of nip at it, which basically all they're doing is eating the profile of this bait, which is not necessarily right connected to the blade. so it's kind of under the water. So a lot of them are just little slurps, and you just kind of see the buzzbait disappear. Rather than if you had the whole profile of the bait on the surface, those fish really come up and explode and use a lot of that energy. And a lot of times, they're missing the bait. So what I found with this style bait, where the bulk of the bait is under the surface of the water, a lot of times when they eat this, they eat the entire bait. It's their whole mouth is closed, and all that's sticking out is the blade like that. So that's just something I've noticed with this style bait, because it's running a little bit below the surface and not turned on its side. So let's go back to this style buzzbait, and a little tip that you can do to get your buzzbaits to be running a little more vertical like this would be to add a trailer. You see a lot of guys adding trailers to their buzzbaits to help them skip and kind of give them a bigger, bulkier profile. You've seen very popular has been like the horny toad style bait, where you put that big toad on there, a big ribbit style bait that gives it a big flat surface, allows it to skip well, so you can put a buzzbait in places that buzzbaits haven't really been seen before. But that's a totally different reasoning of putting a trailer, or a different type of trailer than I'm talking about here. What I really like to do is put more of a craw style trailer. Even a swim bait style trailer works great for this, if you want to put a small swim bait on there as well. But what I want is something with a lot of resistance. These claws flapping is going to help keep that bait in line. So this is just a 3-inch Yamamoto Yamacraw, but you see he's got 2 claws back there that are flapping. And as this bait is spinning, you imagine this blade's on the surface of the water. Now you've got these 2 claws that are drawing a lot of water. They're putting a lot of resistance on this bait. So it's going to help keep that bait under the surface of the water slightly, keep it from turning, because these claws are flapping back here. It really won't allow the bait to turn, because those claws are back there kind of keeping the bait keeled and in line. So that's just a little tip right there. You can add a trailer to your buzzbait for different reasons than you may think, to actually help keep the bait in line, running vertical, and helping you land some of those fish that bite, because you want that hook point facing up at all times. I'm a big believer of that. Regardless of the technique or the bait that I'm throwing, I always want that hook point facing up, because that bait's going to be on the water and you're going to be above it. And when you set the hook, I want that hook point coming up into the fish's mouth. So that's a totally different subject that maybe we can dive into on a different video. That's kind of just a pet peeve of mine. But yeah, that little tip, adding a little trailer to your buzzbait. If you're using the standard style, if you're using a kind of a bent frame style like the Epic baits, it doesn't need a trailer, but adding a trailer is always an excellent option to bulk up the profile, give it a little more natural look, kind of swimming, put a little swim bait on there, something just look like a shad, a minnow, a bluegill, whatever it may be, swimming along the surface. Adding a trailer, great way to enhance your buzz baits, get some more bites, and then land those bites that do eat the buzz bait. So hopefully you guys learned something from this video. Appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, leave me those likes and comments and good stuff down below. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys next time.